Hey everyone, and welcome. Today you'll be learning the one trick to successfully camp a lane. We'll be teaching you this high-level technique with the help of a replay from the one and only jungle king, Griffin Tarzan. For those of you who have been living under a rock, Tarzan is the jungler for the first place team in the LCK, Griffin. He's widely regarded as the best jungler in the world right now, so let's jump straight into it and learn from the master. Tarzan is playing Rek'Sai against an enemy Karthus. Before we start the game, let's look at our lane matchups, as you should always do this during the loading screen to figure out where we should be focusing our pressure as a jungler. Let's start with bot lane. Tarzan has a Sivir Nami against a Lucian Nautilus. Sivir isn't considered a lane bully or hyper carry, more of a safe pick that looks to wave clear. Compare that to Lucian, who is a much stronger lane bully early on. Although Sivir has a Nami, which is considered a lane bully in her own right, it will be difficult for her to poke. If the enemy Nautilus lands a hook on her, Lucian can follow up for an easy kill. Tarzan's bot lane, Sivir Nami, will likely be playing safe and defensive in this matchup, and so it's not a priority lane for us to focus. If we take a look at mid, we can see it's Sylas against Aurelia. Both are scrappy melee champions that took Ignite. This can be a snowbally matchup and one we want to look to influence. If we look at top lane, it's Riven against Kayle. Riven is a mobile bruiser that will be looking to engage and snowball early. Kayle wants to keep her distance and farm up until she eventually outscales Riven. This is a priority matchup too, as we want to make sure Riven can bully this matchup and keep Kayle weak. So to summarize, we can ignore bot lane and our focus will be on getting mid and top lane ahead. As we start the game, we can see that Tarzan chooses to start at his red. He's starting on the same side of the map as the side lane he wants to influence, top lane. By doing this, if the enemy starts on the opposite side at his own red buff, then Tarzan can invade the enemy's blue. If the enemy invades his blue as a response, they will split the map in half, which is referred to as vertical jungling. This will allow Tarzan to isolate the key matchup top lane, while giving up the low priority bot lane matchup to Karthus. This is an advanced pathing technique, so stay tuned to learn how it's done. As Tarzan does his red, he notices the enemy bot lane hasn't shown early. This indicates that Karthus is likely getting a leash on his red buff. Since the enemy is starting on the opposite side of us, we can look to initiate vertical jungling to isolate the top lane matchup. The next thing he does to accomplish this is take his raptors, but why does he do this? Why doesn't he take his Krugs instead, or just go straight to the nearby scuttle? Here's the thing, Rek'Sai can't do Krugs in this position as they will take too long to kill. The enemy Karthus could immediately go for the topside scuttle before Tarzan can react. If that were to happen, look at where Rek'Sai would have to move next, his raptors, and after this, he'd transition to the blue side of the map. He would find himself on the bot side of the map near the low priority matchup. Instead, raptors are much faster and let him get to the scuttle in time to contest it even if the Karthus tries to rush it. Essentially, by doing raptors instead of Krugs, he's denying the enemy's ability to take the top scuttle and immediately prevent vertical jungling options from him. Once he takes the raptors, he goes for the topside scuttle. More importantly though, is that as he moves through this pixel brush, he's going to be watching his own ward in the opposite pixel brush. If the enemy Karthus did red into raptors into scuttle, just like us, then he'd show in this ward at the same time as us. Since he didn't, we can now rule out this route. Additionally, if we go back to the 2-minute mark when the scuttles first spawn, Tarzan would have used the scuttle trick where you check to see your ward for the scuttle moving in it. As you can see, Karthus isn't taking the scuttle during this time. This allows us to rule out the red into immediately taking the nearby scuttle as a possible route he's taken. This leaves Karthus with two main lines, red into Krugs and red into farming towards his blue side. That being said, as Rek'Sai is killing the scuttle, he can use the scuttle trick again to see that Karthus still hasn't gone for that bot side scuttle. This rules out a route like red into Krugs into the nearby scuttle. Just from this early pixel brush ward, we can now deduce it's highly likely that Karthus started red and then farmed towards his blue side. Once he finishes the scuttle, he then moves to invade Karthus' blue, where he's able to scare off Karthus and steal it afterwards. Hold on, this is huge. How was Tarzan able to accomplish this? He did this knowing two key pieces of information. First, that the enemy was playing a mana-hungry jungler. Mana-hungry junglers are champions that spam an ability to clear like Karthus, Hecarim, Olaf, and Skarner. When one of these champions starts at their red, it's an immediate red flag that there's a possible invade opportunity on their blue. We can see that when Rek'Sai moves to invade the blue, Karthus is low on mana and it would be difficult for him to contest it. The second thing that he understood was that he had lane priority in mid lane to support his invade. This is easy to predict. Sylas's passive makes his auto attacks do AoE damage after using an ability. This gives him great pushing power early on. Compare that to Aurelia, who doesn't have access to strong wave clear in her kit until much later on when she purchases a Tiamat. Karthus really made a mistake not understanding that his own priority would be found in bot lane. This forces him into an awkward retreat, where he ends up invading Rek'Sai's blue and initiating vertical jungling, something he should have done from the very beginning. This loss of time he spent walking across the map now means he's behind in tempo. Tempo is just another way of saying time. Someone who is behind in tempo often loses initiative on the map and feels like they're reacting or is lagging behind the person who is ahead in tempo. We can see exactly what this tempo advantage looks like. Rek'Sai hits level 3 before Karthus due to his tempo advantage, which now also lets him land a gank on the enemy top laner into then retreating back into the river. Meanwhile, Karthus has only just finished killing the blue. This is a good example of why knowing how to path is so important. Karthus pathed inefficiently, got punished for it, and is now behind in tempo. Now, if we go back to that gank top, we can see that Tarzan took a pretty disgusting angle. Rek'Sai has been considered a top tier jungler ever since patch 9.4, where they buffed her and changed Conqueror at the same time. That being said, another reason why she's so strong right now is the specific angle you can take on side laners. It lets you get directly behind them while also completely dodging possible wards in the lane brush, and yes, the same path can also be used on bot lane. Some pros have been outspoken about this specific angle and argue that her tunnel shouldn't be allowed to take this path. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments section below. Now, this gank was valuable not just because he was able to kill Kayle, it's just as important that Tarzan was able to get her flash. I want you to take a look at top lane. A big wave is building. Kayle will have to use teleport to catch the wave under tower, and Kayle has no flash. What do you think Tarzan should do? This is actually one of Tarzan's favorite types of ganks, and we covered it in detail in a previous guide called How to Gank Like the World's Best Jungle. Check it out if you want to learn more. Tarzan knows there's no point heading to his bot side jungle, as Karthus headed there as soon as Rek'Sai stole the blue, so there won't be any camps up. Instead, he moves to take the Gromp, and then tower dive the Kayle as the big wave crashes. This is so punishing for Kayle, as she just used her teleport so she can't get back to lane in time to get any of these minions. In total, Kayle lost 13 minions from this gank, which is a massive amount of experience to be behind in the early game, let alone against a snowbally champion like Riven while you have no flash. However, Tarzan hasn't really camped this lane yet. If anything, it looks similar to last week's video that taught the repeat gank. Well, it's about to get bad, really bad. If you play top lane or have any friends or family that play top lane, I'd recommend turning off the video now, because Tarzan is about to gank this Kayle again. And again. And again. Oh yeah, and again. This isn't blind aggression. There's actually a specific trick Tarzan is using to do this. Let's go back to that second gank that caused Kayle to lose 13 minions. Take note of how big the minion wave is. Now, notice how the enemy minion wave gets caught on it. When this happens, it causes what's known as a rebound, or bouncing the wave. In other words, it means that the minions are actually pushing towards Riven's tower. As you can imagine, this is extremely problematic for Kayle, as she has no flash. She wants to freeze the wave at the safety of her tower, not have them push towards the enemy where she'll end up overextended. Let's dive a bit deeper to understand why this happens. When Kale's reinforcing minions get caught on Riven's minions, they all clump up and begin focus firing. Then, once the last minion dies, you can see how grouped up they are. As the next wave arrives, they're immediately focus firing down a melee minion before Riven's siege minion or caster minions have even begun attacking. However, that's not the only reason. We can see that Kale's minions are also closest to her tower. When a minion wave is closer to one tower, it causes the reinforcing minions from that side to get there earlier than the enemies, again causing them to focus fire and do damage before the enemies can. These two effects are what cause it to push towards Riven's tower. Alright, so let's go back. When Tarzan kills Kale and then recalls, he can see that Kale's minions got caught under the tower on Riven's minions. We now know when this happens, it's going to cause the wave to push towards Riven. With Kale having no flash, and the minions pushing towards Riven, it's going to make a third gank really easy, but there's a second step that is simple to do, but extremely important, and that's to place a control ward in the nearby brush. In this case, since it's Korean Challenger, Riven places the control ward for Tarzan. However, when Tarzan recalled, he bought 2 control wards and fully intended to use one to set up a camp on Kale while the wave pushed back to Riven. We can see that with the brush pink warded and the wave pushing back to Riven, while Kale has no flash, it makes this gank extremely easy. Now, as he transitions away from top, we can see he's looking to apply pressure on that other priority matchup mid lane. Shouldn't he be farming right now though, as he's already ganked so much? One of the guidelines we've taught in previous videos is to compare your level as a jungler to the level of solo laners. If you find that you're the same level as them, then it means you're ahead in experience and can be a strong indicator to spend some time ganking instead of farming. The reason for this is that jungle camps give experience based on their level, and their level is determined by the average level of everyone in the game. If you're a higher level than a jungle camp, it will actually give you reduced experience. What this means is that if you're the highest level in the game, jungle camps will always be a lower level than you and have that debuff on them, giving them reduced experience. This is why it can be wiser to spend time ganking instead of farming. His gank ends up paying off mid lane, and he's now impacted the 2 key matchups we identified at the start of the game. He then soaks lane experience and moves to the nearby raptors, all very efficient in terms of time spent relative to experience gained. Now, does anyone know what time Kale's flash is back up? I promise you, Tarzan has kept track of it. He got her flash at the 3-minute mark, and since flash is on a 5-minute cooldown, it won't be back up until 8 minutes. This is why Tarzan immediately heads back top for another gank. He also knows it's gankable using that same trick as last time, but for a slightly different reason. If we take a look at the last time Kale was killed, we can see Kale's incoming wave get stuck on Riven's minions, indicating that it's going to push towards Riven again. However, Riven chooses to clear the wave instead of setting up a rebound. By doing this, we can see that Kale's next wave didn't get caught on Riven's minions. When this happens, it's referred to as a clean reset, or resetting the lane. With the control ward down, and the wave at the center of the lane, and Kale having no flash, it makes Kale extremely vulnerable when she moves to last hit. Tarzan understands these nuanced wave manipulation concepts, and so immediately paths towards top lane. By doing this, he's able to get another kill and deny Kale another wave since her teleport is still on cooldown. With Riven now level 6, while Kale is level 4, and a big wave being shoved into her tower, Tarzan is pulling out all of his tricks, and is looking to execute another one of his favorite ganks. Long-term subscribers should recognize this one, as he positions himself to gank Kale in between her towers. Even though he doesn't get a kill, he's denying Kale wave after wave to the tower while she's being zoned. By the time Kale finally gets back to lane, she's level 4 to Rek'Sai and Riven's level 6, and dies once again. And what do we see after Rek'Sai pushes the wave in? That's right, Kale's minions got caught on Riven's minions again. This means it's going to be pushing towards Riven, a complete nightmare for Kale. This is why Tarzan is choosing to hover around topside. What's really nasty about using this technique is that a teamfight breaks out in the enemy's jungle, and while this entire teamfight has been going on, the wave top has been pushing into Riven, meaning that Kale is being denied more and more minions as a big wave is being built up for Riven. Alright, we went over a lot in this replay, so let's briefly recap. We first analyzed the lane matchups to figure out we needed to focus top and mid. For this reason, Tarzan started red, hoping to initiate vertical jungling, splitting the map in half and letting him focus the key top lane matchup while ignoring bot. When Tarzan saw that the enemy bot lane didn't leash, he knew Karthus was also starting red on the opposite side of the map. Since Karthus is a blue dependent jungler, Tarzan pathed aggressively, taking the faster raptors over the slower Krugs into the nearby scuttle. He followed this up with an invade on the enemy's blue, something he was able to accomplish by knowing he would have mid lane priority. He then ganked top, where he was able to get a kill in Kael's flash. With Kael having to use teleport to get back to lane to pick up a big wave, Tarzan used this big wave to dive her. Kael, dying a second time and having no teleport to get back to lane, was denied 13 minions. But more importantly, we learned how when Kael's minions got caught on Riven's minions under the tower, it indicated that it's going to push towards Riven. By placing a crucial control ward to deny vision, Rek'Sai used this knowledge of wave manipulation to set up another gank. Then, since he was soaking lane experience during these ganks, he noticed he was the same level as the solo laners. This indicated that he should look to gank instead of farm. This let him get a successful kill on the other priority matchup mid lane. Afterwards, he pulled out all the tricks, re-ganking top, looking to gank in between Kael's towers since she was level 4 to Riven and Rek'Sai's level 6. And another time when he noticed Kael's minions got caught on Riven's minions again, indicating it would push towards Riven. He invaded to hover around top, and when a fight broke out, the entire time Kael was being denied minions since it was pushing towards Riven. Alright, what do you think of Tarzan's ganking strategy using wave manipulation? Let us know in the comment section below, as well as any questions you might have. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get more content like this. In the meantime, check out these other videos, which I know you'll love. As always, good luck and have fun on Summoner's Rift.